Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissick and Dana Gentry.
Hi, welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissick.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Good morning, Dana. How are you this early Sunday morning?
I know, we're doing early today. I'm good. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. What's new with you?
Well, I just told you this before we started recording, but for those of, I binged the Garth Brooks documentary last night and absolutely loved it. And one of his stories I want to share today when we talk about time. So you got to watch it.
Oh, love it. I can't wait. Yes, absolutely. I love documentaries, so I will definitely check that out.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
So I want to kind of recap. We've been talking over the last few weeks about a formula that I'm really sold on, and one that I believe that I could be dropped in any city, you could be dropped in any city, and we could recreate every bit of the income from scratch that we've created, no matter what the circumstances are, all by following this formula. So that formula that we've been talking about over the last few weeks, for those of you that are just now joining us and picking up and maybe haven't picked up those sessions, and I encourage you to go back and listen to those. But the formula is this: relationships plus validity plus value. And we really mean, when we say value, we mean people's value gaps over time. And so relationships means, just to give a little bit of a recap, is who are those people that you want to be a hero to? If you're in sales, who are those people that you want to be your customer and clients for life, that you would enjoy serving and helping for the next 25 years? Relationships could be who's important to you in your life. Who are the people that are the closest to you that you want to make sure you don't mess up that relationship, and that at the end you have great memories and great experiences with those relationships, not a lot of regrets. Or it may be relationships that you want to learn and grow from. Who do you want to be around? Who do you want to be mentors and coaches and people in your life that help you grow? And then validity is one of those things that's a little harder for most people to understand. And what I mean by that is the relationships you're trying to get in relationship with cannot be done unless they see you as valid. So what's your validity? What's your validity naturally that you already have based on your life experiences, the work you've done, the knowledge you've had, the books you've read, the things you've learned? Like you said, Dana, you wrote 7 pages of notes from Garth Brooks documentary, right?
Yes.
Well, that will layer in, and that knowledge will become part of your validity. So here's what I say about validity. Everybody has some and nobody thinks they do. Mm-hmm. And once you understand it, I think you'll spend more time and energy trying to create more validity, because the more validity I've created in my life, the greater relationships I've been able to get into. So validity is one of those things that's super important, and everybody has it and nobody thinks they do until you kind of start thinking about this. And then our next V stands for value. And Zig Ziglar always says it best: you're going to get what you want out of life by helping enough other people get what it is that they want. And these are what we call those relationships we're trying to get into relationship with. What are their value gaps, and how do we help them fill it? How do we get up every day and our sole focus is helping our customers, our clients, our relationships, our people we want to be a hero to, fill those value gaps? And the reality is, Dana, I want to add this because I didn't add it last week when we talked about value gaps, is the more time you spend identifying and clarifying what those customers, clients, people you want to be a hero to, relationships you want to get into, and then helping them get it, the more money you're going to make. I've always said money is a byproduct of the value you bring to the world. And so you don't focus on the money, focus on the value and filling those value gaps for those relationships.
Yep, I love that.
And then today we're going to talk about time, and that's the bottom part of the formula. So if you can imagine this as an algebra formula, you've got a capital R plus a capital V plus a capital V, a line underneath. If I'd have paid more attention to math, I probably would have known what to call this. You know what I mean?
But Jimmy tried to tell us one day, but we both already forgot.
Yeah, I don't even remember what it was. That's why I couldn't pass math, is it went in one ear and out the other. And then a line underneath those letters and a big capital T, and that T stands for time. And I've thought a lot about time, knowing we were going to talk about it this time, because to me it's the hardest piece of the formula. One, because we don't necessarily have control of other people's time. In other words, if I'm trying to bring someone into my life, into my world, onto my team, into my office, they get to decide what that timeline is. I don't. And that's the hardest part of anything. Same thing when I'm making sales in the real estate business. The thing I can do in sales is I can ask them a motivational question, like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10, you want to buy a house or sell a house yesterday, or 1, you don't really care if it happens this year or not. So that, so that I can meet your needs. And I'm not calling you every day if you don't want me to. How motivated are you? I can ask those questions to help me better know how to allocate my time to that relationship. But if they're a 1, it's going to be hard. I'm not going to get them to a 10. I can't change their timeline. All I can do is be smart enough with my time to learn how to work on their timeline. So that, I would say that about the sales part of it. And same thing about, if I'm bringing somebody into my world or recruiting them or whatever, that would work the same way. I can tell by their value gaps and where they are in that pain process of whether they could be a 1 to 10 on making a decision or looking for something different, looking to make a change. Mm-hmm. So the other thing I thought about time is this, for us to have big lives, and the key to living a big life is that I'm always looking to make like Dan Sullivan says, my future brighter than my past. Mm-hmm. And to do that, I'm looking 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years out. And I think this is where realtors, especially, I know from my own experience, get kind of stuck. We don't really do that. I worked with an agent the other day on the telephone. I spend 90% of my time on the phone with top agents, as you do also, Dana. And what was interesting is when I tried to get them to help me see what kind of progress they'd need to make in the next 3 years for them to be really happy personally and professionally with that progress, they mentioned big words like success, my team be successful, my people be successful. But when we dug down and tried to quantify that, there was no ability to quantify. And so I think a lot of what we need to do is get real clear. And one of the reasons I always have people go fill out that freedom number worksheet that you and I have given away, by texting 33444, the words freedom number as one word together, you can get that worksheet. But the reason I do that is because it quantifies what we're after, and it helps us be able to build a plan and figure out how long it's going to take us to get there. But when I was thinking about this, some of the wealth building things Jim and I have created and you've created, Dana, they've taken 10 or 15 years, but we probably only spent about 3 to 5 good solid focus years on creating the foundation of that. But it's going to take, for most people, 10 to 15 to 20 years to start seeing the fruits of that. And that's hard.
Yep. So I actually, last week, I did a morning mindset Zoom, and I ripped off and duplicated from a guy that I heard, Ben Hardy. I was watching a Zoom that Adam was on with him, and he was sharing this thing about this guy. I think his name was Dr. Daniel Gilbert. Anyway, he talked about your future self. And he said, everybody ask yourself this question. Are you the same person that you were 10 years ago? And everybody's going to say no, obviously. And he said, if every person says no, but we still think that we're going to be the same in the future. So we tend to believe the person that we are today is the person that will always be, but all of us know that we aren't the same person that we were 10 years ago. So then we spend our time in doing things for today instead of our future selves. And he did this whole talk about a future self. And I thought, man, that's so true, because if we don't take the time to imagine our future selves and use the time to do that, then we just assume that we're going to be less than we are today, I think, instead of more than a lot of people do. And I think it's like an old parable, I don't know, but the 2 most powerful warriors are patience and time. Mm-hmm. And every time we talk about time, I feel like we have to talk about patience, because that was one of the things I had written down from before. But you have to be patient on this one. And like you said, it's hard because we don't have control over it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times when you're taking the time to build those things, we want it yesterday instead of in the future. And so there's a lot of patience that has to come with it.
Well, a couple of things I think of when you say that is, I want to be around people who want to be someone different, who want to be a better human being, a more knowledgeable person. I don't want someone who either has gone backwards, because a lot of people don't realize if you're not moving forward, you're actually going backwards, right? And so two things come to mind when I think about that. I'm gonna start asking that question, because if somebody says they're the same person, that's going to tell me a lot.
Problem. Yeah, Ben said that that's a red flag, and he said that. He said one of the best things to say is, if you were imagining your best future self, how would you be different than you are today?
Oh, I love it. Oh my
Isn't that
gosh,
a good
I
one?
love it. I'm going to be looking him up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, because, and I always stick in my mind, and I always think for myself and for other people, if we don't design our lives, same thing, if we don't design who we're going to be in 10 years, somebody or something else will. And to me, that always motivates me to whatever I can be in control of, to be in control of that. And what I can be in control of is my growth and the things I go after in life, and the things that I learn from other people, that I can spend my time on. Because spending my time is developing what's going to happen in the future. Whatever I'm doing right now with my time, if I'm ignoring the fact that I need to create more cash flow in my business, so that I can create wealth and passive income, so that I can get freedoms later on, then there's defining what my options are in the future.
Yep. He shared this story. This is a little bit of a squirrel, but it was good. But that whenever you make, when you make decisions based on your time in the future, your future self, instead of your today time, then you begin to engage in what is called deliberate practice. And so he gave the example of LeBron James.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
And he said LeBron James, his future self is to be the best basketball player in the entire world. Like that's his goal. When he looks into the future, that's all he ever wants to focus on, is he wants to be the best basketball player in the entire world. And he said, but because he has that as his future self, and that's what his time, he deliberately practices on the time for that goal, that then it shapes the process of him becoming MVP and winning all these other things along the way, that most basketball players would say, man, that's a huge accomplishment. But for LeBron, those are just stepping stones. Yeah, because his future self he wants to spend his time to be the best basketball player in the world that there's ever been. And I just thought, man, if we all thought like that, I mean, that's a big mindset shift, compared to some, maybe even a fixed mindset or a mediocre growth mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And it kind of made me think of something, because earlier when I talked about, the more we fill someone else's value gaps, the more money's going to show up, because that's what money's correlated to. It's a measurement of our ability to fill other people's value gaps, right? And another piece of that is, the more we fill someone's value gaps, the more money that we make, then it also becomes a means for us for acquiring greater knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits that make us more valid to keep moving and growing that future.
Yep. That's so true.
So something else too that I thought about is, sometimes because the things that take longer amounts of time, we sometimes want to quit. I mean, you and I both have probably had moments. I know I have, and I'm sure you have too.
Yep.
When I just thought, should I just quit this? Should I quit?
All the time.
And the thing is, I'll never forget, a friend of mine said to me, and I might have said this on an earlier podcast, but if it's first of all, he said to me, Linda, you can't quit. I said, I can't. Why can't I quit? Because I really want to. That day, I really wanted to quit that. And he said, because you don't know if you're on the 5-yard line or the 50-yard line.
Oh yeah, I love that.
And so that's so true when you think about things that are going to take 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, or you're impatient with whatever this is you're trying to accomplish. And because we can't control the time, we can only control, the questions we ask to figure out what to do with our time. Then I think about that, because if it's a worthwhile goal and you're doing it, I think you should give yourself some space before you quit it. Ask yourself, could I be on the 5-yard line? I was reading something the other day. Oh, maybe it was the Michael Hyatt book. That visionary book is phenomenal.
It's so good.
So flipping good.
Yeah.
I was reading it the other day, and there was something in there. I don't know if it was his book or not, because I have 3 or 4 books going at one time. Do you ever do that?
Oh,
I
yes. I have like 6 right now.
And with Kindle, you can sometimes can't identify the book because I can't physically see the cover all the time. So that's the only part I don't love about Kindle. What I love about Kindle is Jimmy doesn't have to carry 15 bags of my books wherever we go because I'm not sure what I'm going to read.
That's what I do right now.
Yeah. But with Kindle, you can't see the cover of the book constantly. So I'm not as good with that awareness of which book that came from.
Yeah.
But in this one, it talked about most people quit right before they succeed.
Yep.
Right before they succeed. So, I guess that what I would say with time is this, it is our most valuable asset, and it's other people's most valuable asset. So that's one way to look at time. How am I spending my time, and what results is it going to get me? Because how we spend our time and what we're doing with that time is going to give us a result, right? Yep. And the thing is, on time, when I'm working to get my people I want to be a hero to, my customers, my clients, people I want to join my organization or be a part of my team, I have to figure out ways to get them to self-discover that doing it sooner is better than doing it later, right? But that's the only thing I have control of. And the way I do that is help them self-discover where to fill those value gaps faster. The minute they decide that, hey, if I join your organization, or hey, if I join your sales team, or hey, if I join you as my realtor, then I'm going to get those value gaps filled faster with whatever the key things are important to me. Faster, make the most money, least hassles, whatever those things are. And so we need to understand that that's the one thing we have control of. And don't give up. If it's valuable enough and it's taking a long time, don't give up. Just be unwilling. Just always think, I'm on the 5-yard line. I just know I am. Because my friend saying that to me that day really inspired hope in me, because I thought, you know what? I've been at this so long. I have to be at the 5. I have to be at the 5. And so I love the thought that if we just kind of ask ourselves that question, we won't give up, I don't think, quite as much.
Yeah, I love that. One thing too that has really helped me a lot has been when you're, what is it? When every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And, when I think about time, that's probably the biggest question, at least over the last 2 years, that I've really stopped and asked myself. Every time I say yes to something, I'm saying no to something else. So if you're saying yes to really going all in on Zillow leads, then you may be saying no to spending your time in farming a great neighborhood and upping your average sales price. Or if you say no, yes to a new opportunity, you may be saying no to bettering something that you already have. So I just think that question, when we talk about time, I feel like we can't leave that out, because it's so powerful to really think about that. And I'm sure that there are other people besides you and I that feel like it's easy to say yes to a lot of things.
So true. And I think we sometimes want to spend time on things that are going to pay off quickly, especially in the real estate industry.
Yes.
And what I like to say about that is, when we do that, when we don't spend our energy on things that take a longer period of time, we're walking over dollars to get to dimes. And so here's what I mean by that. It would have been so much easier for me to continue to keep selling real estate, making the most amount of money when I was in the team doing it all. The problem with that is it was going to limit my bigger opportunities that I could step into, because we all only have 24 hours, right? We've said it a million times. So by doing that, I would have gotten more instant gratification, because I could do a deal and commissions that come in 30, 60 days. Do a deal, commissions come in 30, 60 days. However, by choosing to step back a little bit, take a smaller piece of that pie, find a very talented person, put their time and energy into that deal, then I could take my time and go spend it on things that took 5 years to come to fruition, 10 years to come to fruition, 20 years to come to fruition. But the bigger opportunities are going to take more time. They're not going to be the ones that pay off instantly. It's not going to be the get rich, I do it today and get it tomorrow. And I think we tend to naturally want to go after more of those. And instead, what we should step back and say, what are the things that if I spent the next 20 years working on would pay off so much bigger in my life?
Yep.
What are those things? And I think by doing that, we're going to have bigger, more fruitful ability to give back to more people. more security, more options, more freedom, 20 years from now, 15 years from now, 10 years from now, the bigger opportunities take the longer amounts of time. They're not the immediate payoffs.
Yep. So I'll do a quick story from the Garth Brooks documentary last night, not to ruin the whole thing for you, because it's not. There's so many great stories.
Is it on Netflix?
It's on Netflix, yeah. And it said it came out in 2019, so maybe I'm just late to the party, but I had never seen it until Netflix now knows what I want to watch before I know what I want to watch. So I got an email that said, because you watch this, you might like this. And
yes.
So I bet I would like that. So thank you, Netflix. And so anyway, I watched it last
by
night.
the way, is where we're headed with our real estate clients
Right.
too. Eventually we'll be able to do that very thing with our real estate clients. Well, we won't, artificial intelligence will, but we'll look like Netflix.
Yeah, like it says. Yeah, I mean, man, it's just crazy. But when so how you talked about, you could have easily stayed in your team. So Garth was in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and that's where he's from. And he was packing the clubs there. I mean, just hundreds of people every single night at a different place every single night. But he decided that he wanted to go to Nashville. So a bunch of his friends chipped in some money, sent him to Nashville. He ended up only staying 2 days. He came back home because he said he didn't have the money. He just couldn't take it. Didn't know what it was. But long story short, there's a whole backstory to this, so you just have to watch it. But he ended up going back. And he said so many times he thought it would have been so easy for me to just stay in Stillwater. The clubs were packed. There were, he was the local celebrity in his little Stillwater. But he said he found his manager, Bob, and he said one day they went to 7 record labels. They drove to 7 labels, and every single one told him no. And he said that he got in the truck, they got in Bob's truck, and Bob was driving, and he said they pulled to a stop. And he said that Garth said, I'll never forget this moment. I leaned over to pick up some papers that I had out of the floorboard. And he said, Bob said, this will happen. I know that this will happen. And he said at that time, he needed to hear that, because he said, one, we've heard this and talked about this before, but Bob believed in Garth more than Garth believed in himself. And so he said, I need to believe in myself like he does. But then this was the crazy part of the story. He'd waited all this time, and he thought, man, it'd be so much easier for me to just go back to Stillwater and do my own thing there. But that night he was scheduled to play at the Bluebird Cafe, and he was the 7th person to go. But he got there early because he wanted to watch everybody else. And the number 2 guy that everybody came to see didn't show up. And so the manager said, Garth, will you go on 2nd instead of 7th? And he said, well, sure. And so he said by 7th, usually all the big label people have gone home, but they were all there to see this number 2 guy. So Garth went, and then the guy from Capitol record label was there who told Garth no earlier in the day. But he said after Garth played, the whole place went nuts and everybody was into him. And he said that he came up to his manager afterwards and said, man, we missed something today. Can y'all come back tomorrow? And then that was what started his career with Capitol Records. And he said that if I would have done what I wanted to do, I would have gone back home to Stillwater and played in those little shows every single night. But he said that it took me the time. And I thought, man, that is so true. It takes time. And we naturally sometimes want to quit, and we want to go back into what we're comfortable doing and make that other commission check or play in front of that little local club. But I mean, he forever changed the industry and his life and for the rest of his generations, because he saw it and he took the time to stay with it. And I just thought, man, that is such a good story.
Yeah, because big things take time.
Yeah.
I mean, they do. The bigger things take more time. And so you just have to ask yourself, do I want to settle for the little things, or do I want to go for the big things? And if I go for the big things, I have to be passionate enough about it. I could do it for the next 20, 25 years, 15 years, whatever, because big things just absolutely take more time. I absolutely love that. And it reminds me of a story of, when I first started coming up to the Ohio Valley, I'm a Southern girl. I've never left Texas. I've always lived in Texas. And when I started coming up here about 3 years in, I still had nothing, absolutely nothing. And, I'm thinking, God, my real estate team's killing it at home. My brother-in-law's getting all the credit, because he's running it. And I'd come home and, by the end of the week, I was mentally and physically just beat up, because you can only hear no so much, right? And I remember going in the bathroom one time crying, and the kids are like beating on the door going, Mom, what's the matter? It's okay. You're going to get somebody, all the things I would tell them if they were down and feeling defeated. And I remember thinking, God, my business is running so good. Linda, why do you have to quit something right when it's doing fabulous to go do something that maybe I shouldn't even be trying to do, right? And I look back now and I'm so thankful. And, I've often thought, the one gift I have, I'm not, I don't, I think the most successful people sometimes are not the ones with the most natural gifts and talents. I think it's the ones with tenacity.
The grit.
They're
Yeah.
just not willing to quit, and I was so passionate about what I was doing that I think that kept the energy there long enough to get something finally going. And, now we're, 4,200 agents and 28 offices, and I love all my people.
Yep.
And, last week I did videos with some of them talking about how their lives have been changed. And I thought, Linda, this is why thank God you didn't quit.
Yeah.
Because
well, you didn't know if you were on the 5-yard line or the 50-yard line.
Exactly. And these kind of great things to change people's lives takes time. If you're going to do something big enough that's not going to just change your life, but going to change a bunch of other people's lives, it's going to take time, and you have to be committed to it. So again, that takes us back to, the R part of that formula. That's why you have to be so passionate about these people that you want to be a hero to, because it's going to take grit. It's going to take tenacity. It's going to take time.
Yeah. I love what we talked about, I think last time, that John Maxwell said, do you wake up every single day and love the people that you lead or that you're doing or that you're doing stuff for? And I just think when you do, man, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah. So true. So absolutely true. Well, Dana, we're about out of time on this one. What would, any final thoughts, or I think you have a review maybe you'd like to add? We have somebody that's written in.
Yeah. Man, Linda, well, first of all, on time, I would say, I just think this is such a great lesson, because in this whole series, we've been getting such great feedback about it. So thanks to everybody who's listening, and thank you for sharing it, because we've talked about this, you can use this relationships plus validity plus value plus time or overtime in anything. And I think everything. I mean, I have a friend who listened to this whole series who owns restaurants here in Kentucky. And he texted me and said, oh my gosh, he said, I'm listening to one for the third time. I was like, great. Cause you can use it to anything. But with time, I would just say there is a perfect time. There always is. And so there's always a perfect time. And especially in your real estate business or in anything that you're trying to do, we don't talk about influencing or recruiting a lot, but I can think of people who I'm in business with now that took me 3, 4 years, 5 years, maybe on even one of them, for it to be the right time for them. But there's always a perfect time. And when it was the perfect time. So you just get frustrated with that.
Well, and tell your friend who's in restaurant business, that was the business we were in.
Yeah.
And I hadn't learned this yet. And if we had learned this, our businesses would have been way more successful, and they would probably still be running today while we're still doing something else. But because we would have understood is any business is about people making you money. And the more valid we could have been to hire the best, most talented people and figure out that the most talented people's value gap is the same value gap as anyone else. They want to build equity in something. And how could we reward them for growing what we were trying to grow as big as possible through some of those value gaps, like maybe a little bit of equity and things like that. We could have had much bigger restaurant and any other business we were trying to do. Yeah. That's why I say I really believe this formula works for any business, and it works for anything you're trying to accomplish. And you could drop anybody in any city, and they really understood and knew and practiced this formula, and they could build whatever it is. Yeah. Start from scratch, build it over.
Yeah, I love it. So we had a goal of getting to as many reviews as we could by the end of this year. And I checked last night, Linda, and we're actually over 100, which is awesome. So I wanted to just start recognizing some of those. And I just read one that I loved so much. And I knew that you would love it too. So this is Realtor Mandy who wrote this, and she said, this is so amazing. This is my first podcast that I've ever gotten addicted to. These ladies are simply the best. The topics are always so helpful and entertaining too. I'm so excited when a new episode comes up. Listen to them all. You won't regret a minute of it. So I know we've gotten the best one. So thank you so much, Mandy, for leaving that. And if you have not left a review yet, please go do so. We have a big goal, and we really would love y'all's help in that, and then sharing it with a friend too.
Yeah. Oh, please. Yeah. Please share it with a friend. I had a wonderful phone call with an agent the other day. Matter of fact, she's going to come on our podcast, that someone had given her the podcast a year ago, Dana, and she had been listening to it. And so the friend reached out to me and said, is there any way you could talk to this girl? And I loved my conversation with her. And it made me realize that if she was struggling building her team and putting these things together, so was everybody else. So I'm going to bring her on and we're going to recreate that conversation that I had last week. So yes, we love your reviews. And we love the fact that if you feel good enough that you could share this with somebody that you think it really might help them, we would greatly appreciate that. Yep. And so, Dana, I guess if you want to reach out and see if maybe your topic or a question you have that Dana and I might be able to help you with, reach out to us at info@everything life and real estate. And again, don't forget to leave a review and don't forget to pass it on to a friend. And so, Dana, I guess I'll talk to you next week.
Okay, see you then.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.